When you drive a car, you have to have a licence, and that entitles you to have some responsibility for other people on the road.
I never used to even notice these shrines before Dad's crash. Now I understand why people put them there. Maybe I'll make one for Dad. He was number 23 in the South Australian road toll in 2004. That year, 1,600 people were killed on our roads. But I don't really know how to make a cross. I don't know how long the timbers should be and things like that. It's the kind of thing Dad would have helped me with.
A woman coming on in the opposite direction failed to negotiate the bend and went over the median strip and along the wrong side of the road and had a head-on collision with him.
It really helps me to just think that she's a beautiful person who made a mistake, and she had no malice, no bad intent. She's never hurt anyone in her life before, and she's like this archangel who just made a mistake.
The woman who hit him head on, and his head hit the front of the car, and just took half an hour to cut him out of the wreckage, and he never ever spoke to us again.
And they just basically said to us, you know, he's got some brain damage and we won't know the extent of the brain damage until he wakes up.
I didn't want to see him anymore after that, because that wasn't my son.
One thing about Dad was he was very clear about that. If it ever happened to him, he was not going to live his life as a vegetable, which is an unfortunate word that he used. So the decision in itself wasn't that hard to make, because we knew that's what he would want. But to actually go ahead and make the decision and to say that it's okay to turn off life support was the hardest decision that I've ever had to make.
Nothing like dragging it out for a bit longer.
I think it's positively ridiculous that it will have been 2 years.
More than 2
More than 2 years since it all happened, and they're going to rehash the whole lot all over again.
In this process, the family has no power, and we just have to sit back and float along some system that tells us this is the right way to do it. I've always done whatever I wanted to do. If I wanted to go to Timbuktu, I'd go to Timbuktu. I've made things happen. So I'm not the kind of person that will sit back and let it all unfold so unproductively in front of me. So part of me wanting to form this relationship with the lady is that I can find out the answers. And I bet I could find out more answers from talking directly with her than the whole court case will find in, 2.5 years.
If you fondly imagine that we're going to sail through her front door and sit down and have a heart-to-heart, and everyone ends up hugging and kissing at the end of it. That's a decided fantasy.
But don't you think this could happen?
No.
But if you take out the lawyers, the police...
But it's too late for all that now. It's gone too far. It's not something that you can sort of drag out of the limelight and sort of put in the cupboard and do your own thing about. Someone's died through someone else's negligence. It's well and truly in the court system, and it's going to stay there until it's run its course.
environment's horrible because they say something and you want to say, oh, but hang on, and you want to add your 2 bits worth, but you know that you've got no right.
You're not allowed to.
And you know, if you're going to cry, you have to be really quiet. Like, it's got nothing to do with us.
Good evening. An Adelaide nurse has admitted self-administering large quantities of morphine shortly before crashing her car and killing another motorist. But her lawyer insists that her driving wasn't dangerous because she was so used to taking the drug.
When ambulance officers examined Day, she was conscious and alert. She told them she was self-administering morphine for pain relief and later admitted she was taking up to 1,000 milligrams a day.
She's just taken a cocktail of drugs that she shouldn't have and then driven, and I mean, it's nothing like I thought it would be.
I don't believe it was an accident now. I believe it was an accident waiting to happen.
Yeah.
It's gone from being, you know, a horrible thing to have happened and it could happen to any of us to she was just waiting.
She was an accident going somewhere to happen. The amount that she's taking is what you prescribe a terminally ill cancer patient, and they're only on it for, you know, presumably a few months at the most, and she's been on it for years.
I mean, do I feel bad about the accident? Yes, of course I do. Do I think that I did anything wrong? No, I don't. But, you know, there's always the doubt. And it's not that big a dose when you look at it. I mean, it's big, I'm not running away from that. And all the evidence to me is that it's safe, and she was safe for several years before the accident.
How I feel about the doctor who prescribed her with medicine. He was definitely a quack to give out prescriptions the way he handed them out.
My work is the most controversial work in clinical medicine. So despite what people would say about me, I do not believe that she was impaired in any way by the morphine that she was having for work or for driving.
This afternoon we got a phone call at 4:15, and they basically said the verdict's going to be tomorrow. Mum's away in Keith, which is 4 hours from here, so we said to them, you know, Mum's away, can we postpone it? And they're just like, nah, it's happening, too bad.
Who was self-administering morphine has been found guilty of killing a motorist by dangerous driving.
Just because you're on prescription medication, if you're on that higher doses, perhaps you shouldn't be getting behind the wheel.
And I'm glad it happened the way it did, because now I feel that at least Bill didn't die in vain.
We were so, thrilled that she'd been found guilty, and now she's decided to appeal, so the whole thing's unrelenting and never-ending.
I know that you and your mother would prefer she didn't go to jail. Why? I don't know. But then, there's no old saying, an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. That's me.
Restorative justice believes that the people most effective at finding a solution to any problem are the people most directly impacted by the problem. So what Sandra and I have talked about is the possibility of bringing yourselves as the most affected people and, sorry, I don't actually, Andrea, together for a chance to actually talk about what's happened to them. It sounds pink and fluffy. It's not. It's the only time, in my belief, that offenders are actually held accountable to the people who've been affected.
I just hope to gain a decent sort of a sentence for her. I don't want to send home with a smack on the hand and a bag of lollies. No way.
I've had enough of all this mucking around. You know, she was found guilty 4 months ago and we're here now, maybe finding out whether she goes to jail or not. So I'm a little bit over it. I'm over her legal team looking for all these outs like suicide and
drug management. I mean, her drugs are the reason she's here in the first place. To be whinging about not going to jail because you're going to miss out on your drugs seems a bit unfair to me.
You know, we've got a large number of people in the community using opioid drugs and they're allowed to drive. I mean, the law, and I gave evidence in court to that effect, the law is that people on large doses are allowed to drive.